What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with an unboxing video. And I have added what I consider, anyway, at least a personal grail. I think a lot of people would consider it a holy grail among Star Wars comic books. I picked up a recent book after, wow, it's been a long journey, but I spent the last couple of weeks, 3 weeks or so, selling a bunch of modern graded mint-on card items. Because I knew this item was coming up for sale, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get it or not. I ended up being over-prepared, but I did pick up a pretty awesome Grail that I've always wanted. I didn't think I'd actually get, but given what the comic book market has done here over the last, I don't know, 3 months or so, 4 months, and where prices, as you've seen in my market updates, they're down anywhere from 30 to 50%, and it's also true for the book that I picked up. But I wanted to show that and kind of tangentially all the other comics that are in my collection that are kind of related to it. And so we're going to first start off with some Thrawn related books. Really awesome books here. The first one on the left-hand side is Star Wars Thrawn issue number 6. And I've got it in a low light environment to hopefully minimize the reflective glare that happens with these CGC books. But this is Star Wars Thrawn number 6 from 2018 in a CGC 9.8. This is the first comic book meeting of Grand Admiral Thrawn and Darth Vader. And it is also the first comic book appearance of Admiral Arlani, who is with the Chiss, and she's kind of like the right-hand Chiss for Grand Admiral Thrawn back when he was still with the Chiss Ascendancy. And so it's got, you know, a fairly secondary first appearance, but this book has held up pretty well just because it's the first face-to-face meeting of Thrawn and Vader in comic books. And given that we have Thrawn coming to the new Ahsoka series, I picked this up for a song and a dance a couple of years ago. I think I paid $46 for it, and it's done nothing but go up in value since. Obviously, it's come back down recently, but and then here are my 2 copies of Thrawn number 1. This is obviously the start of the origin story for Grand Admiral Thrawn. This is another CGC 9.8. Great book. Very inexpensive right now. You can pick this up for about $150 to $175. I highly recommend getting this one. There are certainly a lot of books in a 9.8 grade on the census, given how new it is. But it's a great cover, and if you haven't read the new trilogy, or the second trilogy, I should say, by Timothy Zahn, it kind of dives into his backstory and how he joined the Empire and how he infiltrated them originally at a base camp and then came to win over the Emperor and became his a Grand Admiral within the Imperial Navy. So that's issue number 1. This is also issue number 1 in a 9.8. This is the John Tyler Christopher action figure variant. I bought this one from Boss Bounty. He sent this to me raw. I got it pressed and cleaned and then graded, and it came back with a 9.8. And to help pay the expenses on a few other books that he sent for himself, I bought this from him, and I paid fair market value. It's probably not worth what I paid for it now, but I don't care. It's just an awesome cover. John Tyler Christopher action figure variant cover. So those are my big Thrawn books. And with the exception of one, which I'm going to show you now. You guys have already seen this on the channel, but Heir to the Empire number 1 from 1995 by Dark Horse is his first full appearance comic book. And this is kind of a gem. It's definitely come way down in price. So if you're looking for this one in a 9.8 grade, now's a pretty good time as any. I think one of these sold in an auction recently for $750, which is the lowest I've ever seen it. They've since bounced off that price, and they're kind of selling, I don't know, $900 to $1,100 now is about the going rate. Just a fantastic cover. Obviously, this is the comic book adaptation of the best-selling novel by Timothy Zahn, Heir to the Empire. And it's got Luke there. This is also the first comic book appearance of Jorah C'baoth and Mara Jade. So, pretty incredible book. And this is kind of the first really, really big book I ever bought. It's just a fantastic book, and I'm very proud to own it in my collection, given my affinity for Grand Admiral Thrawn. But now I want to show you, before I show you the Grail that I picked up, I do got one other kind of book that you'd be surprised as to why this is related, but this is Star Wars Mace Windu number 5. This is from December of 2017. Pretty great cover. It's not really the reason I bought it, though. The reason I bought this book is because this is the first appearance of Ahsoka Tano in Marvel continuity as it relates to Star Wars books. So I just thought it'd be kind of a nice, at the time I bought it, I was like, well, I'm never going to have her first appearance comic, but I just thought this would be kind of a nice secondary book. And you can pick this up for, I'd say, anywhere from 80 to 120 bucks in that range. But pretty great cover. It's got Mace Windu there. It's got, I think, Obi-Wan Kenobi and then Kit Fisto fighting some kind of robots. But great cover. But again, it's the first appearance of Ahsoka Tano in Marvel continuity. So, pre-Marvel was her first full comic book appearance. And that is what I picked up. It is truly a holy grail for me. And that is Clone Wars #1, the first comic book appearance of Ahsoka Tano, as well as Captain Rex. Most people didn't know that, but this is also the first comic book appearance of Captain Rex. A pretty iconic book. And I did have to prepare for this because it's, even with the comic book market downturn, this is still a very, very expensive book. It's easily the most money I've ever spent on a single comic book before. But I am not independently wealthy. Believe me, I had to sell off a lot of items. I think I sold off 18 Vintage Collection and Power of the Force 2 graded items. And I ended up getting, selling way more than I needed. So I do have some money in the PayPal, but I just wanted to make sure I was prepared in the event that I was able actually to pick this up. And I picked it up for about, a little under 50% of the market peak for this book. So this book peaked well over $3,000 in a 9.8 grade. So I got it for less than 50% of that. So I was very happy about the price, just given what the prices have done. Now, a couple of buddies have said, yeah, but I bet next month it's worth even half of that. So that may be the case. But I'm at least now the proud owner of Clone Wars #1 in a CGC 9.8 grade. And as you can see on the label, first appearance of Ahsoka Tano and Captain Rex in comics. And this is a tough book to find, but not nearly as tough as it used to be. There were, at the time I was thinking about getting one, this is probably dates back to last year, there were only about 200 or so, maybe 225 in a CGC 9.8 grade for Clone Wars #1. And since that time, and since obviously the new Ahsoka series has been announced, a bunch of people have sent this in. So there's over 500, and I'll put a little graphic down here right now with the kind of breakdown, but basically I think there's 514 9.8s for this book now. So it's actually pretty numerous. But if you look at the census ratio of 9.8s versus every copy that's been submitted, it's actually fairly low. It's 35%. So for every book that's been sent into CGC since they've started grading this book, only 35% of them have the 9.8 grade. So that's pretty low for a modern comic. This book is from September of 2008. Usually most modern books, you're talking, I'd say in the early to mid 2000s, you're probably I would say at least 60 to 70% of them would be 9.8 grades. Modern books nowadays are more like 90%. But this one only has a 35% CGC 9.8 ratio, and I think it's just because of the dark cover. It shows every little spine tick. This is a very, very clean copy. I've looked over it very carefully. And this is the direct edition. This is definitely not the newsstand edition. So you can see there on the barcode, it says direct. There are newsstands for this book. You're probably talking close to $3,000 for the newsstand. That book peaked at $5,500 for the newsstand edition of Clone Wars #1. But anyway, I want to say thank you to everyone who bought from me, because a number of you did. I won't name your names or anything, but you guys all bought a few items from me over the last month or so, and I saved it all up, and this is what I bought with it. So it's just I figured now is the time, just given what the market has done, and if it's kind of a now or never situation. If I really want it, now's the time. And it looks awfully great next to Heir to the Empire #1. I just thought it was a good natural fit for my existing collection to have Grand Admiral Thrawn, and then now I've got Ahsoka. And when people talk about every hero needs a foil in order to have a good story, well, now I've got the hero, and now I've got the villain. I've already had the villain, so pretty awesome to have this combination. I have both Heir to the Empire #1 and Clone Wars 1 in a CGC 9.8, easily the two best comic books in my relatively small collection, modest collection. But this is truly a personal grail for me, and I'm very, very happy to add it. And I just want to say thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed looking at this, and I will be back soon.